Well, Casey, I don't know if you've heard or not, but crypto is back.
Oh, Kevin, that's the one thing I was hoping wouldn't come back.
You're like, bell bottoms, I'm good with.
Yeah.
Crypto, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, we've had a big crypto boom this year as the prices of a lot of cryptocurrency tokens have gone up. But something else has been happening, which is that politicians have increasingly been engaging with the crypto industry as part of a strategy to win their elections.
Well, tell me about this.
So last year, RFK Jr., who's running for president on a third-party platform, chose a crypto event in Miami as the place to make his big campaign debut and declared that he was also a big lover of the crypto industry. And then just over the last month, Donald Trump has been invoking crypto in his campaign speeches and positioning himself as a friend of the crypto industry. And apparently even President Biden is thinking about meeting with the crypto industry to discuss policy issues.
Well, that is interesting, although, Kevin, when it comes to RFK Jr., we can never forget that a worm did eat part of his brain.
That's very true. So, it's been a little weird as someone who's been sort of following the crypto industry for a while to sort of see this, this sort of turn of events where politicians who used to dismiss crypto out of hand are now apparently taking it seriously. And I think it's just a very revealing story about how the crypto industry has been working behind the scenes to kind of drum up support among lawmakers to try to beat back some of these regulations that it thinks are going to hurt its ability to make money, and also how it's using its money in very conventional ways to try to influence the upcoming election. This week, three of my colleagues, David Yaffe-Bellany, Aaron Griffith, and Teddy Schleifer, published a story titled How Crypto Money is Poised to Influence the Election. Basically, it's about this new attempt that the crypto industry is making to raise a bunch of money and to start superPACs and to start distributing it to candidates in races where they think their support could make a big difference.
And I'm very excited about this because anytime I hear about a lot of crypto money going somewhere, I think it's a fresh opportunity for people to eventually be incarcerated.
Right. So I thought this was a very revealing piece, not just because of what it said about the crypto industry, but because of what it says about politicians and how easily some of them apparently can be bought or at least convinced to take crypto more seriously. So to talk about this piece and what it means, we've invited our old pal, David Yaffe-Bellany, DYB, back on the show. Let's get DYB in here to talk about some PACs.
Will BRB with DYB?
Well, BRB.
Have we ever used that joke?
With DYB.
Yeah.
David Yaffe-Bellany, welcome back to Hard Fork.
Thanks so much for having me.
By my count, this is your 7th appearance on this show. You are the most frequent Hard Fork guest. How does it feel?
Well, do I get some sort of medal or like any hardware to signify this achievement, or is this the extent of it?
We just put an NFT in your crypto wallet. You'll want to check that out
All right,
later.
that's even better.
DYB, where are we catching you right now?
I'm coming to you live from Puerto Rico, where I'm on a real grueling hardship reporting assignment for the next few days.
You're just like sipping margaritas with Frances Haugen, aren't you?
Yeah, basically.
Well, I hope you're getting hazard pay for your arduous reporting trip to Puerto Rico. David, before we dive into the story of crypto money and the 2024 election, I think it would be helpful if you just sort of mapped the terrain of crypto politics for us a little bit. And I want to start by asking you about how crypto is being viewed on the right, and specifically by former President Trump. Because until fairly recently, he was not a fan of the crypto industry. He used to say stuff like calling Bitcoin a scam, but recently, he's totally flip-flopped, and this year he has declared himself a friend of crypto. He's accepting campaign donations in crypto. He's taking up causes that matter to crypto supporters. He recently met with Bitcoin miners at Mar-a-Lago, and he's been saying stuff in his speeches like, "I will end Joe Biden's war on crypto." He even has his own NFT series. So what happened?
So that's a really good question. Like you said, he had this kind of long history of disparaging comments about crypto. And, really up until even kind of earlier this year, in February, he made a comment about how he preferred dollars to Bitcoin. And so what happened? Well, one thing is that he spent a lot of time hanging out with Vivek. Remember Vivek from the Republican?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, not Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General.
Yes.
No. And Vivek's a huge crypto proponent and has sort of taken some credit for changing Trump's stance on the issue, or at least claimed that in private conversations, he sort of nudged him toward thinking about crypto a little bit differently. But I think really what's happening is sort of a raw political calculus, which is that this is an issue that a very wealthy group of people care a lot about and that they're very angry about as well. And so it's sort of an opportunity to score points on Biden. And whether Trump actually cares about crypto remains to be seen. But he sort of found it to be kind of a useful political wedge.
And it's not just about scoring points, David, right? It's also about raising money.
Yes, the crypto industry has spent huge sums of money already in this election cycle. That money has primarily gone toward congressional races, but I think it's reasonable to assume that like Trump sees this as a potential fundraising opportunity for his own campaign.
Right. I mean, that feels like a very straightforward story we've heard before with other special interest groups. Some lobby, the fracking lobby gets really interested in politics and they have a bunch of money, and so all of a sudden, people start changing their views on fracking. Like that's not a new story, but that is interesting. What's happening on the right and specifically with Trump, because it kind of has given crypto a political home that it maybe didn't have last year, even a couple years ago. I want to ask you also about the left, because it used to be that most Democrats were seen, at least by people that I talked to in the crypto industry, as being hostile to crypto. And some Democrats, including President Biden and Senator Elizabeth Warren, are still very much seen as kind of enemies of the crypto industry by people in the crypto industry. But you also have some interesting cases of Democrats like Chuck Schumer, who recently broke with President Biden in an effort to roll back some SEC guidelines that the crypto industry didn't like. So, David, what is going on with Democrats and crypto right now?
The left doesn't really know what to do with crypto, I think. I mean, on the one hand, you've got people like Elizabeth Warren, who sort of see some of the abuses in the crypto world as a kind of mirror image of abuses that have happened in the traditional finance system. Obviously, she's a longtime critic of the big banks, and so she's sort of using kind of similar rhetoric to talk about crypto. But that's created some sort of strange bedfellows situations where you've got kind of bank lobbyist groups sort of siding with Elizabeth Warren because the banks also want to take out the crypto industry since they see it as a threat to their business. And so you have other Democrats who say, hey, wait, why are we aligning ourselves with the kind of entrenched financial interests that we've also criticized in other contexts? And so that's resulted in this kind of scrambled situation where you have different kind of Democrats with sort of different positions on crypto. I will say, though, kind of by and large, you have kind of most Democrats in Congress sort of falling in line with the position of the Biden administration, which is that this stuff is, largely illegal, at least the way it's being kind of used at the moment.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. I want to talk now about money, and in particular, these crypto super PACs that you've been reporting on that are trying to influence the upcoming election. Who's behind this money, and how much money are we talking about?
So we're talking about a huge amount of money, primarily coming from three big crypto companies: Ripple, which is sort of battled with the SEC for years and years; Coinbase, the biggest U.S. exchange; and A16Z, which is a VC firm, but one with like huge investments in crypto, obviously. And they've each spent about $50 million to finance a group of PACs, the largest of which is called Fairshake. And so those groups are sitting on a pool of money, more than $150 million, which in the tech world is not like an astounding amount of money, but in politics, it can really make a huge difference.
So lay out the political agenda of these PACs. What do they hope to accomplish? So
it's sort of pretty kind of explicitly transactional, even by crypto standards or even by political standards, really. Like they want to elect pro-crypto candidates. They're talking about sending questionnaires along to candidates to sort of like gauge their views on crypto. And then the idea is to kind of elect people who will kind of back pro-crypto legislation. And, that could be, a bill that strips a lot of power away from the SEC that says that, cryptocurrencies are not actually securities and therefore they're allowed to kind of be offered and traded the way they have been in the US.
Got it. And what kinds of races are these crypto super PACs most focused on right now?
So Fairshake, the biggest of the PACs, announced a couple of months ago that it was going to focus on 4 Senate races, including 2 that are very competitive that involve Democrats who are looking pretty vulnerable in their reelection efforts. And that's there's the Senate races in Montana and Ohio. So it's John Tester in Montana and Sherrod Brown in Ohio, who are both kind of vocal Democratic critics of the crypto industry, kind of facing reelection in those crucial states.
And are these super PACs mostly or exclusively supporting Republicans? Because there are some Democrats who are seen as sort of pro-crypto, or at least a little less anti-crypto than maybe Elizabeth Warren and other very anti-crypto Democrats. So are they supporting any Democrats or independents?
Yeah, absolutely. And the PACs and the companies that are backing them are very quick to say that they consider this a bipartisan issue. They see strong supporters of crypto on both sides, et cetera, et cetera. And it's true that one of the first kind of major expenditures by Fairshake was in the California Democratic Senate primary, where the group spent about $10 million on attack ads against Katie Porter, who was one of the Democratic candidates and was seen as sort of a close ally of Elizabeth Warren. And so she was defeated, and Adam Schiff ended up winning that race. And Schiff went on to meet with Coinbase and some other crypto firms at Coinbase's offices a few weeks after that election. So you definitely see these groups kind of rubbing shoulders with Democrats as well as Republicans.
And how much of this activism by the crypto industry do you think has been helped by the fact that crypto prices are quite high right now? I mean, if we were talking in 2022 when the sort of crypto industry had collapsed and all these, coins were, their value had fallen precipitously, there just might not have been as much money to spend on these races. So how much is the fact that like Bitcoin is, close to an all-time high now, that a lot of crypto prices have recovered and are booming again, how much has that helped these attempts to influence the political process?
Yeah, I mean, it's unquestionably a big part of it. I mean, most of Coinbase's revenue comes from transaction fees on crypto trades, and crypto trading ramps up, and the sizes of those trades tend to be bigger when the market is doing well. And so Coinbase does a lot better when the market is doing well. It generates a lot more revenue, and you can see that in its earning reports every quarter. And so Coinbase has more money to spend now than it would have had 2 years ago, and thus it can afford to lay out $50 million on a PAC.
You mentioned the Katie Porter race where the crypto people got where they wanted. Are there other examples of them winning? Like, do they feel like they have some real momentum?
So one sort of cautionary thing I would say is it's always difficult to determine causation here. We know that Katie Porter lost, and we know that the crypto industry spent a lot of money in that race, but was one a result of the other? It's not totally clear. They're very quick to claim that scalp, but I think that we probably need more evidence before we can definitively say that this money is shaping the elections. I mean, another claim that sort of backers of some of these PACs are making behind the scenes is that Sherrod Brown's position on some crypto issues has kind of softened. He's voiced a willingness to vote for some pro-crypto legislation as a result of the threat to spend a huge amount of money in his race.
But if he had simply put his position on the blockchain, it would have been immutable, and then it never could have either softened or hardened. So that's something that candidates should be thinking about.
Exactly. This is how we stop the flip-flopping that bedevils our political process. Yeah.
So obviously there are parts of this that just sound very traditional and sort of about kind of a special interest, kind of trying to influence the political process, whether through big campaign donations or super PACs. But there's also this idea among some people I talk to in the crypto industry about the crypto voter, right? There's this idea that a lot of crypto leaders have that there are millions of Americans out there for whom crypto is a very important issue, and who will vote for candidates who support crypto and won't vote for candidates who don't support crypto. What do you make of that theory about the crypto voter?
I mean, I know Casey's a single issue crypto voter.
Correct.
Whose every decision is shaped by these issues. So it seems plausible to me. No, this is something I joked about with, my colleague Kellen Browning, used to be on the tech team and covers politics now. And, I said to him a few months ago while he was sort of on the campaign trail, so are you running into a lot of these single issue crypto voters? And he just laughed. Of course, nobody's talking about Bitcoin at a Trump rally or whatever. But the industry has these surveys that are exclusively, commissioned by the industry, which show that there are a huge number of people in the U.S. who own crypto. And the argument is that even if it's just a fraction of that group that votes, based on their own kind of financial interests and their crypto holdings, that could have an impact on the election. I am not super convinced, both because these surveys are, like I said, commissioned by the industry, and also because that leap from owning crypto to voting based on your crypto ownership seems like a big leap. But this is a huge industry talking point right now.
I mean, you have me wondering, essentially, like, will crypto come up during the presidential election campaign? Because if, for whatever reason, Trump talked about this a lot in debates, I imagine it would become a very polarizing issue, and then people would have to decide, whether they agreed with him or not. So far, though, aside from, maybe some of these campaign events that we mentioned up top, it doesn't seem like crypto is the axis on which the 2024 election is being fought.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if like a crypto question popped up at the debate. Like it is striking already. I mean, this is a niche issue. Like this is not something that random people on the street care about or know anything about. And yet you have like RFK Jr. like holding his campaign debut at Bitcoin Miami, and you've got like Trump suddenly like posting on Truth Social about how much he loves crypto. And, now our reporting shows the Biden campaign is reaching out to some of these big crypto companies and saying, like, let's talk. We're a little bit worried about where this narrative is headed. And it's just an illustration of how powerful even a small amount of money can be in the political process. I mean, it's turned,
it's true.
It's turned this thing into a big deal when nobody was talking about it before.
And what's the best case scenario for the crypto industry here? Like if these super PACs are able to sort of, help their preferred candidates win all of these elections, and they do end up getting a bunch of pro-crypto people elected to Congress, what would actually change for the industry?
So I think there's this sort of like dream scenario, which is probably unlikely, even if all the crypto candidates win, where Congress passes, a piece of legislation that basically says the SEC, doesn't have authority over crypto anymore. These assets aren't securities and they shouldn't be regulated as securities. And that kind of immediately sort of neuters the SEC's whole kind of enforcement regime against crypto. And then at the same time, if Trump's in the White House, he selects, I don't know, he makes Vivek Ramaswamy the SEC chair, and Vivek drops all the cases and says, the SEC loves crypto now. And then suddenly the industry's problems are behind them.
Like I think he's actually going to make a Bored Ape the Secretary of the Treasury. That's how this is going to resolve. I'm curious, David, like there is this idea of decentralization in the crypto industry. And the idea behind Bitcoin and a lot of early crypto experiments was that you didn't need the government's approval to do any of this, right? You didn't need to have sort of a conventional lobbying effort because all this stuff was happening sort of not through the traditional banking system, but on the blockchain. And it was kind of this global, unregulatable industry for that reason.
Permissionless innovation.
Exactly. So, like, what happened to that? And does this whole sort of super PAC influence strategy kind of run counter to the core idea of crypto as a decentralized technology?
I know. I mean, it's rough for Casey, who I know has a permissionless innovation tattoo across his back.
I do.
He's going to have to get that removed now. But yeah, this is, I mean, look, over the last 2 years, the kind of founding ideals of crypto have been sort of undermined in like all sorts of ways over and over again. And what we've seen is that, it's just become a different sort of thing than this kind of like radical libertarian vision that it might have been, 10 years ago. And this is part of that process. I mean, you've got 3 giant companies funding a giant PAC that's trying to like put politicians into Congress. And like, that's how every other industry in the world operates. And it reflects a high degree of centralization. And it shows that like, really the industry can't actually operate sort of on the margins of government. It needs to sort of be engaged in government and, like control the government to some degree in order to meet its objectives.
David, how likely do you think it is that President Trump, if he's elected, will pardon Sam Bankman-Fried?
Well, it's interesting. I have actually discussed this question with some people around the case. One argument that he would pardon SBF is that the judge in the case, Lewis Kaplan, is the same one who oversaw the E. Jean Carroll case, and so Trump might want to just stick it to Judge Kaplan. That's complete speculation, I should be clear. But look, I mean, SBF is a guy who spent heavily to support Democratic candidates and who, according to Michael Lewis's book, talked about offering Trump some vast sum of money not to run. So it's hard to imagine that he's the sort of person that Trump would want to pardon. Trump has said he'll commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road guy, who's serving a life sentence and is a huge crypto cult hero.
And has there been any discussion of why he would do that, given that the Silk Road was used for a lot of crimes?
So there's a sense in the crypto world that Ulbricht was kind of an early crypto pioneer. He found a use case.
He sure did. Drugs
Yes.
and guns and hitmen. That was basically the use case that he discovered.
Yeah, and there's also a feeling that sure, maybe he was guilty of some crimes, but the 2 life sentences that he received it was an over the top punishment. So that's kind of the argument. And so you see people with free Ross Ulbricht Twitter hashtags and that kind of thing.
So do campaign? I actually don't know the answer to this. Are you allowed to donate cryptocurrency to a campaign? Can you just make a donate or an in-kind donation? Can you donate your NFT to a campaign? Can you donate your Solana coins to a campaign? What are the actual rules around crypto and specifically funding electoral campaigns?
Kevin, I don't think your stash of leftover Dogecoin from 2020 is gonna affect the political process much. But no, the Trump campaign is accepting contributions in crypto. That was one of the kind of pro crypto moves that Trump has made recently. But there are all sorts of complicated disclosure issues around that are going to have to get ironed out.
Got it.
Well, it has to be weird because there's a limit to the amount of money that you can donate, but you're donating using this currency whose price fluctuates constidently. So maybe
that's
get
a
lawyer.
good question.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that. That is a good point.
Well, why did we bring you on then?
Right, be nice.
No, just kidding. David Yaffe-Bellany, thanks for coming back.
Thanks, David.
Thanks for having
Enjoy
me.
Puerto Rico. Wear
I will.
sunblock.
Vaya con Dios, my friend. Hey, that's the end of this clip. If you liked what you saw, head on over to our page and subscribe, and you can get the full podcast. We do a show like this almost every week on tech and the future. Head on over there now and subscribe.